to get underway in adverse conditions, perhaps. 3 different winners in 4 races so far in 2021. Who takes the spoils today? It's the French Grand Prix. .1 kilometre long circuit here in France. 14 corners, 9 of them right, 5 of them left. The all-time race lap record belongs to Maverick Viñales in 2017 when he went on to win 4 years ago. Plenty of overtaking opportunities here around this Le Mans circuit, highlighted here around turns 3 and 4. Polo Spargaro on Dovizioso last year. Coming up next in MotoGP, on pole, at home again, Fabio Quartararo starts in P1. Maverick Viñales is second on the grid, looking for win number 2 after taking the spoils on the opening night of the season. Miller won from 3rd, last time out in Spain, and he's 3rd again today in France. And on the second row, will Johann Zarco roll out the backflip celebration at home today? The Frenchman starts from 5th place. Welcome back to Le Mans. It's time for the big one, the Chartres Grand Prix of France. Some clouds coming perhaps, but at the moment it's dry. The sun is shining. We have blue sky as well. Who would have thought it? An 80% chance of rain coming into today. And at the moment, the warmest conditions of the weekend so far. 17-degree air temperature and 30 on track. We've not had anything like that all weekend thus far. Will it stay that way for the main race? MotoGP action will get underway in just over half an hour. I'm Steve Day, joined by Matt Burt in the commentary box, Simon Crafar down in pit lane. In a World Championship neatly poised, Pecco Bagnaia 2 points up coming into this one on Fabio Quartararo, who starts from pole. But of course, Quartararo on pole, but Bagnaia way back in 16th. Looking forward to this one, Matt. So unpredictable the weather conditions have been all weekend, and these guys haven't actually had all that much completely bone dry track action. So it's going to be interesting actually to see what happens, especially with the rise in ambient temperature.
Well, basically, Steve, there was a dry FP2. That was it, really. The only full dry session of the weekend for the MotoGP riders to base their setups and their tyre choices on this Grand Prix coming up very, very shortly. Fabio Quartararo, then, we've always known how good he is over one lap on those factory Yamahas. 3 successive pole positions now for him in 2021. Back-to-back poles here on home soil in Le Mans. Of course, it went horribly wrong for him last year on pole, and then just moments before the start of the French Grand Prix, the rain started to fall down. It was the first time Quartararo and many of the fellow newbies in MotoGP had raced in the wet conditions for the first time. Of course, I suppose mindful as well, fresh out of arm pump surgery, which saw him plummet from the lead to 13th in Jerez. That will be at the back of his mind. He's not really been able to test the endurance and strength of that right arm, with the wet conditions making it much of a less physical challenge than it perhaps would have been so far for Quartararo. But he's in prime position, on pole position.
Yeah, Fabio Quartararo, this was earlier on. That was not this morning, that replay. It was soaking wet here in warm-up. This was from yesterday. He left it very late to claim pole position. Was on course for victory in Spain until it all went wrong. He's looked in brilliant form all season long so far, Fabio Quartararo. He'll be delighted that it has stayed dry. He stands the best chance of winning in bone-dry conditions here at his home circuit, and there has never been a French winner at Le Mans. But he faces stiff competition, not least, Matt, from his teammate here, Maverick Viñales, who's back on the front row.
Yeah, good job by Maverick Viñales in those tricky conditions at the end of that 15-minute Q2 session. didn't feel like he really nailed a clean lap, the Spanish rider. So when all said and done, he was happy to be back on the front row for the first time since round 2 in Doha. Here's our most recent winner, and a very popular one at that, wasn't it? The Australian Jack Miller. After all the stinging criticism that had come his way after a fairly underwhelming start to his factory Ducati career, back-to-back 9th places in the first 2 rounds in Qatar, then that tip-off when he was well placed in Portimao, but he was there to capitalise on the misfortune for Fabio Quartararo last time out. Great to see Jack Miller win for the first time as a factory Ducati rider, his first dry race win as well. And we always knew, rain or shine, Miller was going to be strong here this weekend in Le Mans, and that's exactly how it's proven to be. Keep an eye on Miller, he's on the front row with the 2 Yamahas.
Johan Zarco, the 30-year-old from Cannes here, another home race for him. He starts on the 2nd row in the dry conditions, in the wet conditions, in the mixed conditions. He has had the pace to fight for a podium here. He's gone close before, 2nd place finish. He's been on pole here in Le Mans as well. Would it be him singing Les Marseillaise at the end of today? This will be his 71st Premier Class start here later on, still hunting for that first victory in MotoGP.
Bit of drama this morning. He took a tumble in the wet warm-up session. He will be having big expectations of getting away with that lead group. He knows. He said on Friday he based this judgment on how strong Quartararo was in FP2. They can't afford to let Quartararo get away. Here's those breathtaking shots of Zarco attacking that really, really fast right-hander. Rain tyres fitted to his Pramac Ducati on that occasion, but at the moment all he'll need is Michelin slick rubber, because it's bone dry here in Le Mans. A few threatening grey clouds off into the distance, but nothing at the moment to give the teams anything to worry about. Although Valentino Rossi made a very good point yesterday. He said, what was it, the race distance today will be around 42 minutes. In that time yesterday, it went from wet to dry 3 or 4 times. That's how quickly the conditions changed yesterday. So we won't count our chickens just yet, that we will get a dry race. Fingers crossed though that we do.
Yeah, there's a big smile on the face here of Marc Marquez, the 28-year-old 8-time world champion. Of course, he returned to action in Portugal to finish 7th. He was 9th in Spain as well. He's had a couple of moments so far this weekend, has Marc Marquez, a couple of falls, but he's absolutely okay. Looked at one point yesterday like he might be back on pole position until the closing stages of qualifying. Perhaps his best chance of climbing back up onto those podium positions were in full wet conditions, Matt, but we know well enough not to rule out Marc Marquez at any point. He's gradually, sure, step by step, getting much stronger, you can see on that bike, and more confident.
Yeah, we said when he came back in Portimao he's only going to get fitter, stronger and faster, and that's exactly what it's proving to be. The one thing that's holding him back, it's not the mind, it's not the skill, he's lost none of that, it's just the physical nature of that injury, that right humerus bone, and all the muscle wastage that he had. He said there are muscles he's found out, having come back in Portimao and Jerez, that are only recovered 50% of their strength in that upper body, and that, you know, these MotoGP bikes now are so physical to ride. There's so much grip from these modern day Michelin tyres, the electronic control that these guys have, 300 horsepower going through, what, 157 odd kilos, the power to weight ratio incredible. It's so physically demanding and taxing on the riders. We've already seen 2 riders so far this year in 4 Grand Prix, Jack Miller and Fabio Quartararo, need arm pump surgery. So Marquez probably easy on his body in the wet, but I'm sure he's not too disappointed to see it dry as well, because it will give him a chance to again assess where his recovering body is. Yeah, the Honda as well is another issue, not quite being up to speed. They're still struggling to find a good solid front end on the Honda. Here is the replay of Maverick Vinales. This will be from this morning's warm-up session. The focused eyes there of number 12. It all went so well on the opening night of the season. The best result, the best race we've seen in Maverick Vinales' career so far. He was victorious here 4 years ago as well. Loves the circuit layout. Said yesterday, it's a beautiful circuit. I really enjoy riding around here. He's got the rhythm, he believes, for a big result here today. There was that classic battle, wasn't it, as you just mentioned, Steve, in 2017 when he fought right for the last lap with Valentino Rossi. A very rare occasion when the doctor led at the start of the final lap in his illustrious career and did not get the job done. Made the mistake going down there into turn 8. Vinales swept through, and then Rossi, trying to recover the gap, went down at the Blur S's. Franco Morbidelli, Valentino Rossi's current teammate on the Petronas Yamaha SRT machine. 2-year-old aging Widestar M1, but the job that Morbidelli's doing so far, absolutely brilliant. Not troubled, he thinks, by the left knee problem that he had actually kept it secret. He's been troubled by a muscle injury in the left knee after a training accident at the VR46 ranch in Tavulia. Didn't actually have a crash on one of the dirt bikes, but just digging his leg into the ground to protect himself from a crash. He just tweaked some of the tendons and ligaments in that left knee. And of course, if you joined us yesterday for his practiced flag-to-flag scenario at the end of FP4, well, that left leg just buckled from underneath him. There's a lot of concern that he might have actually done the dreaded sort of cruciate ligament problem, but all's well for Franco Morbidelli. Doesn't think it's going to be too much of a problem in this Grand Prix, and keep an eye on him. He starts 4th.
Here is the 42-year-old then, Valentino Rossi. He'll start 9th on the grid. That's his best since the opening night of the season over in Qatar. Wet conditions this morning in warm-up as well. He looked good. They made a positive step in the Petronas Yamaha camp at the Jerez test that took place the day after the Spanish Grand Prix. And so I'm sure even he is quite curious to see how he fares here in this race coming up. And here's another man who will be pleased to see dry conditions at the start of this race as well. Taka Nakagami, who on Friday afternoon, Matt, had the speed to run inside the top 5, but has struggled in the wet.
He has. He just was kicking himself yesterday. He rolled out of the end of that Q2 session just in the final decisive moments, understandably so, when there was rain falling in Sector 2. He wasn't the only one that thought, right, that's it, there's going to be no improvement on lap times. He thought he was going to be starring in a Honda lockout of the front row, but he backed out of it too quickly, unfortunately. He admitted he held his hands up to the team and apologised because he said he misread the conditions. Simple as that. Slowed down, missed the chance of getting in that crucial one more fast lap that the likes of Jack Miller, Fabio Quartararo and Maverick Vinales managed to do to get them on the front row.
Can Valentino Rossi roll back the years? He's been put under some intense pressure over the last few weeks. Of course, 17th in Jerez. It didn't really fare much better in Portugal either. In terms of the tyre allocation here from Michelin, everybody thought coming into today that if we had dry conditions, we'd only be seeing a soft front, soft rear. However, these are the warmest conditions that we face. Would anybody perhaps have a look at the medium? And of course, we have flag-to-flag races in MotoGP. We've not had one for 4 years. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that the medium and soft wet tyres might have something to say later on in this race. And already from the commentary box window I can see a couple of grey clouds. So who knows?
Well, last year Fabio Quartararo was poised and ready to go from pole position. Looked a big pre-race favourite when he was in the colours of Petronas Yamaha SRT, and what was it, 3 or 4 minutes before it was lights out, the rain started to fall through everybody. A major curveball. At the moment, that's the most colourful skies we've seen, on a positive note, all weekend so far.
Franco Morbidelli leaves it late, but heads out on circuit, the number 21, of course, back on the podium in Jerez just a couple of weeks ago. A brilliant performance. He said that this year, of course, let's not forget, he's on an A-spec Yamaha, not the same machinery direct as Valentino Rossi, as Vinales, as Quartararo. He said he has had to reassess his expectations in MotoGP this year. Any podium will feel like victory.
Well, you just saw his body language post-race in Jerez, the chest thumping, the fist pumping on the tank. It showed how much that third place meant to him last time out in Jerez. There's been some frank conversation behind the scenes about his level of support from Yamaha. They're adamant that the team are getting exactly what they paid for and what they budgeted for. Franco Morbidelli's insistent. He says next year, it's not in any doubt whatsoever, he'll be on a 2022 latest spec motorcycle. But exactly what brand it is on the tank, that remains to be seen. He's under contract to Petronas, but it might not be Petronas Yamaha next year. That's all still up for debate and up for discussion, depending on what Valentino Rossi does. We know that Rossi's coming onto the grid next year as a full-time manager of a 2-rider team, but will it be Yamaha or Ducati? Rossi says it's 50-50, but in that equation, Morbidelli is a big card to fall.
Vinales here finished 11th in Portugal and 7th in Spain. A little off the boil, a little flat, but he's only 16 points down on Bagnaia in the early stages of this World Championship. A big result here today throws him in the mix, and thanks to Jack Miller's win just a couple of weeks ago in Spain as well, that throws him immediately into the mix. Now, it's a big day for Johann Zarco on screen here, the Pramac Ducati rider. Francesco Guidotti is down on the grid with Simon. I'm sure Francesco excited about the prospects of Johann here in dry or mixed conditions. Simon?
Yes, I can imagine the same. Francesco standing next to Johann here I've already mentioned to you this weekend that the home race of Johan, he knows this track really well. It kind of, from the outside, suits the Ducati, and he seems really fast. What do you think's possible?
Everything is possible today, as usual, but it's possible also for a lot of other contenders. So let's try to do our best. He's really focused and committed to be on top, let's say. But yeah, also weather condition is a bit tricky. Could be tricky during the race. So yeah, will be an interesting weekend.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you see the grid. Whilst we were speaking to Francesco Guidotti, of course, Tito Rabat, the other rider for Francesco Guidotti, of course, continuing to replace Jorge Martin, who we're hoping is going to be back the Martinator in Mugello in a couple of weeks. It's been declared a dry race, but of course, that could change. It's a flag to flag, so there is the opportunity to come in to change if it starts to rain. Here's Morbidelli then starting from 4th on the grid. Couple of clouds again hovering above us here. The breeze is up as well. The Petronas Yamaha rider, Franco Morbidelli, would prefer dry conditions over wet, he said on Thursday. Just missing a few steps in terms of my pace in that area. Of course, the two men, pole and second on the grid. What an opportunity for Monster Energy Yamaha to bounce back. They won the opening 3 races. Is it going to be their day again today? Massimo Meregali is down on the grid with Simon.
Mayo, from the outside, it looks like things are going your way, you know, coming up to the race at least, because your guys in 1st and 2nd, and you know how Maverick often has trouble fight through, but he's in 2nd position. It feels like a big opportunity.
Yes, it is indeed. And honestly, I don't know what the weather is going to do, and for sure we have to take the most of the dry condition and try to pull away. The rhythm that especially Fabio had was really good, and especially he has been quick from the beginning, so he doesn't need many laps to get the speed. And Maverick last night, even if he did the 2nd place, he was not super satisfied about the bike setup, but we try to explain him that what he has been able to do in a different situation, in difficult situation, he should give him some confidence for today. And starting from the 2nd, and as you know, if here we can keep our line, it's a good advantage. And now everything depends from the sky.
Best of luck, Mayo.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Monster Energy Yamaha team boss Maya Meregali. Yeah, sore necks around Le Mans this weekend. Everybody looking skywards to find out exactly potentially what's going to get chucked out of the skies later on. Provisional tyre selection sheet released by Michelin. This is provisional for a dry race. No great surprise given how chilly it still is here and how hard it is for the riders to generate heat in those tyres. Every single rider at the moment, we should say, going for the soft compound front and rear.
Here is Aleix Espargaro. He'll fire away from 13th, looking for another top 6. He's had a difficult weekend so far. Now, we just saw Franco Morbidelli 4th on the grid, Valentino Rossi 9th on the grid. What's in store for the Petronas side of Yamaha? Wilco Zeelenberg is on the grid with Simon. Down to you.
He is, Wilco. Just a gut feeling. I haven't seen many dry sessions here, so it's so hard to pick what's going on. But Franco, he knows that bike pretty well. He's such a solid bet normally. How's his knee, and how do you think he'll go?
Yeah, it's a difficult situation. Actually, not to choose the tires this time, but we have no idea who has the best pace. It looked like Fabio was very fast. Franco, of course, had the pace, but he also struggled a little bit with his knee. So didn't look to be a problem in a time attack, but over the race distance, I have no idea. So anyway, I'm happy that it's dry, that we can start a dry race.
And Valentino?
Yeah, Val on the 9th spot, so I think he's ready to challenge this race, because normally our bikes is working very well here, and he hopes he has something to fight with and go forwards instead of backwards, and I think that's what the team all hopes to.
Great stuff. Best of luck.
Welcome.
Yeah, best of luck. We just saw Bagnaia. He starts from 16th on row 6. He's got it all to do to try and pick up 4 podiums. Jack Miller here, 3rd on the grid. He won from 3rd in Jerez 2 weeks ago. And Matt, he has unfinished business here in France as well.
He really does. He was fighting for the podium and the victory, wasn't he, last October, when Danilo Petrucci, Andrea Dovizioso and Alex Marquez and Alex Rins were all so front runners, and then he had that mechanical problem with about 8 laps to go. Cruel luck for the 26-year-old Australian. Today, though, he can be the first Aussie with back-to-back wins since Casey Stoner at Jerez and Estoril way back in 2012. And what about Alex Rins? Well, on Friday, in the only dry session we had, he was talking up very big his chances. A lot of work to do, though, from the 5th row of the grid, an all-Spanish 5th row with the latest Spargo and his Suzuki teammate and world champion Joan Mir. Alex Rins just need a clean race, though, doesn't he, after a couple of problematic crashes last time out. Let's pop back down on the grid then and speak to Simon Crafar, who I'm delighted to say is joined by Red Bull KTM factory racing boss Mike Leitner, after a strong performance so far this weekend in wet and dry by Miguel Oliveira. Difficult weekend for Brad Binder. What's Mike thinking, Simon, pre-race?
Yeah, I was wondering the same. Miguel looks really strong here, but it's such crazy conditions. It's very hard to pick who's going to be fast in these dry conditions. I want your feelings on Brad's tough weekend so far, and also Miguel looking strong.
Yeah, you're right. Miguel did a very good job during the weekend, but always changing condition. Actually, the race is again on a different condition. So we will see who managed best the first laps. And yeah, for Brad, it was a shame the wet qualifying was really not strong. So he's missing laps in the wet. You can feel we don't have so many time to train on that condition. So the experienced riders are always there a little stronger. But I think he can do still a very good race.
Best of luck and thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much to Mike Leitner from KTM. We'll keep an eye on those Red Bull backed machines. The virtual fan wall from fans watching all around the world. Hopefully we can see those faces in the grandstands surrounding this wonderful Le Mans circuit when we come back next year. Here's Marc Marquez then, the Repsol Honda rider, who must have thought himself he might have bagged pole yesterday. Starts from 6th on the grid here. Previous race winner, a multi-race winner here in Le Mans as well. Matt just mentioned a moment ago, Suzuki and Alex Rins. So you have to look all the way back on row 5 to find Joan Mir and Alex Rins. They've both fought through before, but if it stays dry, it's going to be a tough task. Shinichi Sahara is down with Simon on the grid.
He is. We're right next to Alex Rins. Shinichi-san, tell us your feeling, because my feeling is your guys again can fight through. I mean, I especially noticed Alex's pace in these conditions in the dry. He was fast, but you're so far back. Do you think it's possible to get through?
Yeah, as you say, one of the worst grid position for us in this season. But we know we are strong. And I can say we are ready to fight for the good result today. Well, whatever, dry or wet.
Okay. Well, best of luck with that.
Thank you, Simon.
Yeah, good luck to Shinichi Sahara. They're going to need it, I think, from row 5. There's an onboard camera on one of our marshals who's been very busy this weekend, Axel Vautier, Matt, over at turn 3. I've lost count, actually, of how many riders he's had to pick up out of a gravel trap.
He's probably lost about 10 kilos this weekend running through the gravel. He's been a very busy man with his colleagues down there, of course, as always, in these horrible conditions throughout this weekend. We thank the volunteer marshals for their incredible work. What a shot that is. Beautiful.
The cathedral at Saint-Julien-du-Mont in the city of Le Mans, just down the road here from us, of course, this famous city, steeped in history, certainly motorsport history as well.
Looks like there's a good Sunday market going on there outside as well. Bit of local fare, of course. This city synonymous with motorsport history. When you mention iconic motorsport venues all around the world, well, Le Mans certainly fits into that category. Will there be a home victory for Yamaha, or will Ducati spoil the home party for Fabio Quartararo? They'll be hoping so, with Johan Zarco and Jack Miller looking so strong. A tough race coming in prospect, though, for world champs leader Pecco Bagnaia from the 6th row. How does Ducati sporting director Paolo Ciabatti think about his men's prospects? Simon?
Yeah, he's just having a chat with Marc VDS right now. Here we go. Paolo, love to know your thoughts on your riders coming into this one, because it's so difficult for us to predict, you know, in these dry conditions. We haven't seen any. I mean, Jack and Johan look really fast. It's going to be a tough day for Pecco to come through. What do you think's possible?
As you know, difficult to predict, because basically we never had these conditions during the weekend, and maybe it's going to change, so it might be even a flag-to-flag race. I think we have a good pace with Jack, Johan and Pecco. Obviously Pecco starting from 16th position, not so easy, but in Portimao was starting from 11th position. He did a great race, so it will depend also if he can get a good start, and I think also if a Yamaha don't really go on the lead and try to put their own pace at the beginning of a race. But we're confident we can get a good result also here. So let's hope, and let's see what the weather will reserve to us.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, best of luck to the Ducati guys then. Here is Valentino Rossi, his last win here coming in 2008 in Le Mans, but it's a circuit that he rates highly. He's always gone well here. About to start his 419th Grand Prix.
And there's his younger sibling, Luca Marini. Excellent job by him in the wet Q1 session yesterday to get into the second qualifying session. He goes from 12th place on the grid. Le Mans has never traditionally been a happy hunting ground for Luca Marini. That horrendous crash in FP2 here in Moto2 last year, that really did compromise his end of season title challenge. And you've got to go a long way back to find the two blue Suzukis of Joan Mir and Alex Rins, 14th and 15th respectively. Mir seemed unperturbed about that yesterday. He said, look, it's only normally one row further worse off than what I normally qualify. It's all about those skies though and those clouds, isn't it? Are we going to get a full dry race, or will there be a very rare flag-to-flag scenario?
Taka Nakagami starts from 7th. Alex Marquez with a job in his hands from row 7. Lucio Cecchinello's riders then, how do they fare? Over to you, Simon.
Yes, Lucio, you're an ex-rider. I'd love to know what's going through your riders' minds at the moment after you've spoken with them, and these crazy conditions we've had. Who is the most prepared?
Well, I think everybody are expecting some shower rain. Everybody has one bike dry and the second bike wet. Definitely it will be challenging, because of course it will depend how the weather will do, you know. According with the radar information, we should have some rain at the start of the race. So maybe the race will start a dry race, and then will be flag to flag.
Taka's looked quite strong. Is he prepared for both conditions? I'm wondering that.
Honestly speaking, this morning the wet warm-up, he complained a little bit, both riders complained a little bit about the grip level. So, of course, for Taka, I think it's better to have a dry race, definitely. And then Alex, I think, too.
Okay. Best of luck with that.
Thank you.
5 minutes to the warm-up lap, 7 minutes until we're racing, and there's a few clouds looming overhead. It's just got a little bit darker.
All that blue sky, which gave us cause for a lot of optimism, just seems to have quickly evaporated over our head here in Le Mans.
You have to wonder what's going through the mind of these guys. There's a nice scene, Jack Miller there and Piero Terramasso, who Simon mentioned just a moment ago. Simon, just quickly, your thoughts on this one. It's very, very tough to call. It's sounding like, according to Lucio Cecchinello, we could have rain.
Sorry about that, Steve. I was just running over to Piero right now. Actually, we'll get Piero's thoughts first, because he's the expert on the tyres. Piero, what is going to happen here? This is really, really difficult to predict. None of us know tyre over the distance, what's going to happen, and maybe even some rain.
Yeah, it's difficult to predict, like you said, but okay, now the track is dry, so everybody will live with a slick, soft front, slick rear, soft. So they will go for the race. If the race stay dry until the end, there is no problem. We know this tire because it was the race tire from 2018. They did the race in the same condition. So the softy can keep all the 27 laps without a drop, with a good grip. Just in case they have to stop because of rain, for sure, because they have to do short distance, they will put soft, wet. So this is, for me, is the best scenario.
Piero, thanks for your thoughts.
Okay, you're welcome.
Look at those clouds. We are Just moments away from beginning the warm-up lap here, and there will be some anxious faces down on the grid. Matt, 27 lap race coming up. It's looking like we are going to see the first flag to flag here in 4 years.
I feel like I've just been dragged into a time machine and hauled back to last October, where we're on the grid ready for what looked like a dry race, and now 5 minutes to the off, and those horrible, threatening, ominous grey clouds are really starting to gather overhead. Lucio Cecchinello, who are we to argue with the sophisticated LCR Honda weather forecasting systems? They think there's going to be rain very quickly after the start of this 27-lap race. There's got to be half of this grid, Steve, including this man Fabio Quartararo, who could be going into completely alien territory here. No experience of the high-pressure scenario of a flag-to-flag race. You've got to judge, do you stay out on slick tyres if the rain falls? When do you time it to come in? So many things have got to go through the riders' heads. This is where the teams also, with dashboard communication and pit boards, it will be vital. But there are so many riders, probably more than half, that have never experienced a flag-to-flag Grand Prix.
No, and if it was to absolutely tip down right now, you'd get probably a delayed start, because race direction would just know that that's just not on with slicks. However, it looks like we're ready to go. Soft tyres all round here in Le Mans, 27-lap race coming up. Here is your front row for the French Grand Prix. The man who did the business 2 weeks ago in third, Thriller Miller, riding for the Ducati Lenovo team. Can he make it a thrilling double here in France? Maverick Viñales knows where the top step is here in Le Mans. He was on it 4 years ago. He won the opening race of the season. And Fabio Quartararo, 2 wins to his name so far. Can he make it 3 and become the first Frenchman to win here in Le Mans in MotoGP? We are ready for action. Anything can happen here in MotoGP.